everyone. Thanks for checking into the Pit Stop. This is our recap for Amazing Race Season 36, Episode 2, Trust But Verify. I'm James from Season 32, and this is the lovely
Cayla from Season 33.
Oh, so excited to be back for another week of recapping. I have already been loving this season. I mean, we praised the premiere, I feel like, but Episode 2 was a hot mess in the best ways.
Episode 2 served chaos on a fine silver plate.
Honestly, this is what I've been missing about the last couple of seasons. I don't feel like we've gotten enough chaos.
We got chaos, and I was living for every single second of it.
Well, to help us break down this episode is Maya and Rohan. Hey, y'all.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
We are so happy to have you guys as fellow Team Purple.
Yes.
Team Purple Summit.
Well, thank you for joining us to talk about this episode. But before we really break it down, we want to just talk about y'all's experience. It's been a week since your elimination episode. How are the two of you doing?
We're doing pretty good. I think, honestly, we waited so long for the premiere to air. It was a full year and a half. So for it to finally be out in the open and to be able to talk about it is honestly a really good feeling.
Exactly. It's nice to just have it out. I feel like we've known that it was looming, and we were so excited for it to come out, and it's nice to just be able to talk about it.
Oh, for sure. You guys had to wait a little bit longer than planned.
Yes, exactly. That's a long freaking time. And I mean, I can relate. It took us 2 years for our season to air. But I hope during that time, y'all were able to just connect with your cast and really form relationships beyond the race. Did that happen for the two of you?
Oh, certainly. I feel like we get to talk to them every day. We text every day. And a lot of us have been able to meet up occasionally, which has been so cool. It's just nice to get to know everybody and call them all friends. We're really close.
Yeah, absolutely. We have gotten to go to some Survivor and Amazing Race parties with some of the cast. We want to spend some time with Danny and Ricky and Cesar and Mary, among some of the others. And we just had our premiere party with Anthony and Bailey and Amber and Vinny and Karishma and Kishori. So it has been really nice getting to spend some time with them.
That looked so much fun. I had FOMO. I wanted to be there.
I know y'all had a great turnout for the premiere, and rightfully so. I mean, you've waited so long for this moment, and I just hope that every single one of the teams from this season is just soaking up every minute of it, because you guys have waited a long time and deserve that.
I was going to say, who is the team that you guys connected with the most?
Yes, I want to know.
Who is your season besties?
So when we were and Angie were in front of us in the line on starting day, and you knew that Danny, just from looking at him, is this big super fan. And we had the super fan connection because Maya and I have also watched the show for years and years. And to know that they were a family team and they had really wholesome family vibes and we were a family team, that's who we were initially really excited to get to know.
Oh, I love that team.
So you guys are super fans. You made that very clear at the starting line. And as a super fan myself, I always love to see super fans get to live out their dream on the show. How surreal was it being at the starting line and not only seeing 12 other teams? What was going through your mind just standing there looking at all of them and hearing Phil speak?
It was just such a surreal experience. The whole eyebrow arch, the world is waiting for you, just go sequence was crazy. The adrenaline build up and then just the go.
And then you sprint. It's just, he says go and the adrenaline takes over and you just start sprinting. And we at the starting line, I turned to Maya and I was like, do you want to be front out of the pack? And she was like, absolutely. And so I don't know, you can see it, but we had to cut around the other teams to get through the gate. So we were planning from the first second, how we wanted to start the race.
Did anyone fall?
It was wet. They had just run the sprinklers on the ground that we had to run through, and people were slipping and sliding. It was not.
Oh,
it was fun though.
Same.
good
It's
time.
just chaos right out the gate.
Absolutely. Y'all, it like they televised it. Chris like fell over
That's
into the
right.
grass.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So going into the first leg, what was the hardest part for the two of you?
Finding a map. I mean, they didn't show it, but Rohan and I asked for directions / tried to stop for a map in like 5 different places. We first stopped at a restaurant and we got directions, and they gave us like the general direction where to go, and but it wasn't specific enough. So then we stopped at a gas station, and like from all of the seasons we've watched, you go to a gas station, they have a map for you. They didn't have a map.
Wow.
And then I think we stopped at another
So we stopped at a gas station and we were looking for a map because like as a super fan of the show, like the gas stations like normally have maps there and they just did not have one. So then that's when we switched for me to take over the driving part. And she was gonna navigate, and I got us to where we needed to go, and that's when we got stuck in the alleyway.
I'm sure as super fans, you watched my season of the race. And Leo from Leo and Alana is very critical of drivers who can't drive. In that case, it was Will and I. But he tweeted a little tweet about the two of you. He said, someone needs to tell Maya and Rohan, it's not the amazing 743 point turn. And then he said, if this behavior continues, I might need to open the Amazing Race driving school.
I will be the first person enrolled in that school if he wants to.
Go to right alongside you.
Raquel and I will join as well. I mean,
Need for a really funny moment in the premiere, but you guys lived it. Obviously, probably wasn't funny. It was probably stressful as hell. How much time do you really feel like you lost in that moment?
It took us about 20 minutes to get the car out.
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been asked this a lot, but why not just reverse it?
Originally, our strategy for going down the alley in the first place was the clue gave you 2 different streets that you could park on. And so we were obviously lost getting there, and we finally found the first street that we could park on. So we saw the street and we passed it. So my original thought was go down the alley and turn around at the end of the street into the street that you saw.
Yeah.
And from the top of the street, you couldn't see the barricades that were down at on the other end of the alley. So when we finally got down there and saw that there were barricades, we were like, oh my God. But it already was a tight squeeze. There were like a side of the road was already covered by cars that were parked. And at the time, turning the car around just was what Maya and I thought was going to be the easiest fix to the solution. Looking back now, obviously, yes, reversing it would have been probably have gotten us out much faster. But all we can do is own the mistake and learn from it.
Laugh a little.
Yes. And you said it in the episode, the way you both handled that moment, because let's be real, there's been so many teams who have been in very stressful situations where they just end up fighting and they just don't really work together as a team. The two of you did. And like that was really awesome to see between the two of you. And you also excelled at the task. Like that never seemed to be an issue for either of you either.
I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult self-driving is. Like, it's a lot easier on your couch to say, oh yeah, just back the car up. But like, it's like when you're there in those high pressure situations, like that just doesn't come to your mind. Like, you know, or yeah, like, does it have a backup camera? Like I saw there were cars parked on the street. Like, it's just not that easy on the race. It's really not. So yeah, my hats go off to you guys because I just felt like you guys communicated, even just the decision to switch.
Yep.
Driving, you know, just it was like a very kind, you guys had each other's backs throughout that decision. It wasn't like you're messing up, like we're switching, like, you know, and it's like you see a lot of teams that's how they would have handled that situation. So my hat is off to you. You guys like honestly had each other's backs like the whole way through. For a hard leg, it was hard.
Before we left, we were like, we cannot yell at each other because when we yell at each other, it's just not productive at all.
It's not, yeah.
I would like to know, how close were y'all behind Amber and Vinny?
when we had pulled up and were parking the car and getting out of the car, they were walking away from the mat.
Oh,
So we knew it was close.
dang.
Wow.
So literally minutes, like minutes.
Yeah, it was a couple minutes.
Do you think, like looking back, is there one thing that you're like, if we would have just corrected that, you would have been in it? Like, I guess if you're saying the car situation took 20 minutes, like, I guess maybe that might be like the obvious choice, but was there something maybe throughout the leg that, I guess you could pinpoint and be like, oh, if we would have done this, like maybe it would have been a different outcome.
Absolutely. And it's something that none of the teams took advantage of, and we didn't realize until after we finished the leg. We were at a hotel to start the race. We should have, as soon as we read the clue, run back into the hotel and have asked for a map at the hotel. But it's one of those things where it was the heat of the moment. It looked like all of the teams were leaving, and we were like, we like might not get to make up the time later if we fall behind. But in reality, we really should have stopped for the map.
Yeah.
Did
It's one of those.
anyone do that?
Nobody got one from the hotel. When on the like Malecon at the first clue box, there was a vendor that had maps, but somebody had to be in the kiosk to be able to give you the map. And by the time we had gotten to the Malecon, they were probably on their lunch break or had stepped away for a minute. So other teams were able to get a map there, but we couldn't.
Well, is there anything else from y'all's experience that you want to share or that you wish you would have talked about in your exit press from last week?
The one thing that I was thinking about today that we didn't talk about, Maya was really the expert in packing our bags. Our bags that we packed were really, really light. I know some people are fans of the one backpack strategy. We both had we had two backpacks, but they only weighed between 10 and 12 pounds. They were not like heavy backpacks by any means.
I had to pack his backpack every single time he decided to unpack it because he couldn't get everything to fit back in.
That was
never again, Rohan. Never again will I pack bags for you.
Oh my God. Well, I loved the bucket hat. I thought that was a really cute thing to add in your wardrobe.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, we both worked as aquatics directors at a summer camp, and it's one of the things that the kids like know me for is my extensive bucket hat collection. So I figured I had to bring one of them with me.
Oh, cute. That's so personal to like you. Like, I love that. That's such a personal touch. I love that.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us. I'm excited to hear what you thought about this week's episode and watching from the comfort of the couch. I want to know, before we talk about it, how hot was it really that day? Because obviously this was a keep on racing leg. So the heat you experienced, the rest of the teams continue to experience. How hot was it?
It was so hot outside. It was like very, very hot. I remember like I was at the rodeo while Rohan was doing the roadblock, and I tried to find like some shade to at least get like a little bit of coverage because I felt how hot it was. It was also like humid, so it felt like it was sticking to you too.
So I did the rodeo roadblock, and just doing it once was exhausting, and jumping through the lassos, I was sweating. And some of those teams had to do it between 15 and 25 times. So I don't know how they did that and then had the momentum to keep going.
Well, our car historian Logan tweeted during the episode, because someone did ask, like, how hot was it? And I don't know how far back on the Google he went to find this answer, but he said filming for this leg was October 25th, 2022. Temperature was 84 degrees Fahrenheit with 75% humidity in Puerto Vallarta. Just looked it up on World Weather Info. It was the humidity that was really hurting them. Can you attest to the humidity being the worst?
Yeah, it was really hot. And I think the fact that it was the first leg in a hot environment, I heard a lot of the teams this week say they didn't know how to hydrate for the amazing race. And I think that it being the first leg and you're thrown into this new environment probably affected that. And like figuring out when are the times during a leg that you can drink water and it be like beneficial to you.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that was something that, like, looking back on, I don't think was like talked about or I knew about or like could even like prioritize, because I brought, like, me and Raquel literally brought like little purple water bottles, and that was one of the first things we ditched, because I was like, I don't have time to get it in and out. Like, it's like just how you said, when Phil says go, it's just your brain like shuts off and it's like this mad rush chaos.
Yes.
Where like, you know, I'm surprised that you guys had a strategy to like go around everyone. It's like we had a strategy and that all went out the window, because like you just get so caught up in like, well, we got to go where everyone else is going. You know, it's like you can't even think for yourself. But then, yeah, it's like I forgot. I don't think I stopped and like drank water until like maybe the fifth or sixth leg. Like, it literally took me over a week to realize, like, I cannot keep doing this. Like, I'm not having any water. I'm not eating anything all day. Like, I brought these little energy snacks, never ate them. Those were the things that I dumped for weight, you know, because we each both had our own bags. But yeah, I don't think that's talked about. Like, and you know, if Raquel did, you know, one of the roadblocks, or, you know, if she did something, that's when I should have like sat there and drank water. But like, I was just so nerve wracked like the whole time, and I'm trying to like see what she's doing. I'm like, yeah, that is something that's not talked about. It's like, you need to fit in drinking water, you know, like
It's such a
so
learning
silly,
curve. It's such a learning curve to learn like what takes up time. Because in your mind, you're like, if I
Exactly.
stop to drink water, it's going to take up more time from the leg. But in reality, like, you need it. It's so
Yeah.
essential to your
Yeah.
success in the race.
It's crazy.
Well, to join us in talking about this episode is none other than our father-daughter duo, Mary and Chris. Hey, y'all.
Oh my God, we're so excited to be here.
No,
We're
more
so excited
super
to have
fans.
you.
We love it. How are you two doing today after last night's episode?
Oh,
Great.
yeah, good. You know, I feel like we've had so much time to process, but watching last night, like all of the emotions came up again. Like I didn't realize or didn't remember that I was crying at the pit stop. And so last night watching it, I started bawling again. I'm like, it just feels like we were there yesterday, even though it's been so long.
Right.
So yeah, it's been like a whirlwind of emotions, but like in the best way possible.
Yeah, it was just really good. You know, long time waiting, as Maya and Rohan know, and it just kind of feels good to like get it out there and, you know, just have it up, and so enjoyable to see ourselves and so many things that we forgot about,
Yeah.
or we still have to watch it again, but just so awesome to see it.
Oh, I'm sure you'll watch it many times.
Yeah.
Many more times. Well, we look forward to hearing your perspective on this leg and what the day was like for the two of you, because it was such a long day, it seemed like, with that keep on racing. At the start of this leg, teams were instructed to travel on foot to their next clue at La Iguana Bridge, which seemed like a lot of teams had a hard time with finding this bridge. The detour was a choice between balloon collection or color correction. And in balloon collection, teams had to obtain 6 balloon bunches and exchange them for their next clue. In color correction, teams had to search among numerous strings of papel picado for one with an incorrect color pattern in order to receive their next clue. So I'm going to start with you, Cayla. You and Raquel, you're on the race. Which detour are you choosing and why?
We're doing balloons all day, baby, because I wrote it in my notes. The yellow team, she said it. I don't want to like misquote her. She said physical stuff is difficult, but it's straightforward. So that was definitely something that was true to Raquel and I. If it's physical and we have the option, we're going to do that, because the attention to detail could be something like, you know, as we saw in this episode, like it could be extremely time consuming. But I actually have a question for you guys, because I don't know if they said it or if I paid attention to it. My whole thought process as people were leaving the flags, were there only so many balloon bundles for so many teams? Or it's like if everyone chose to do the balloons, there was enough for every team?
In hindsight, the balloons, we should have gone right to the balloons.
Yeah.
The flag, we still, even after watching the show last night, we still don't know what the correct order was. I think Busy and Sunny,
We're
the
the
only
only
ones that
ones.
got it.
Yeah.
Everybody tried, or many people tried it and walked away. That whole mess of colors, I don't know.
I was cracking up because James, you tweeted like the name was literally color correction, and we're like names, shapes, colors.
Well,
Like,
you know what? I get it. It's that race brain. And we talked about it at the start of this recap. Like, your brain just really turns to mush. No matter how much you know the show, actually running it is a completely different experience, and your brain just doesn't work correctly. And so I think Will and I would have run into the same issue and overthought it of like, what are we doing? What's wrong? What are we actually trying to figure out? So it's not surprising that so many teams did struggle with what they were trying to look for.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think only one team completed it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because the first leg, thankfully, we didn't get to the horses, which was the physical option. And so we went to mental, which worked out well. And so then the second leg, we're like, we're gassed out. Let's go for the mental option. And then it was just like, felt like it was going to be impossible and we were wasting so much time. And so it's just funny because the balloons ended up being so much easier, but we're like, oh, we tried physical and it didn't work. Like, let's do mental. And then we just like screwed ourselves. So yeah, it's just, hindsight is 2020.
What about you, our Team Purple from this season? What would you have done for the Detour?
So
I think we would have.
You can go, Maya. Go.
I think we would have ended up going for color correction. I think the two of us going into it had a mindset of if it was going to be a physical challenge, it had to be a roadblock, and it was going to be me. That was the mindset we had, and that mental challenges were kind of both of our fortes. So if we had the option between the two of those, that's what we'd go for. I don't know how crazy we would have gone. I don't know if we would have switched, but we probably would have started with color correction.
So what I can say is that, yes, we probably would have gone for the puzzle detour because that's normally where our heads go. However, when some of the teams are going to the detour, they said they saw the balloons. So if we had seen the balloons on the way to the bridge, that might have been a motivator because you already knew where some of them were.
Right. That familiarity is already there.
Exactly.
Because I'm curious, like, how far away, like, in total was that running to get all the balloons, But it's like, again, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, but it was long enough where you kind of like couldn't see the next balloon set.
Yeah.
So the way that we had come, a lot of teams had come like directly on the beach, like shoreline. We really got it together with directions that second leg. And so we got the directions and like didn't miss a street, didn't miss a turn, like got exactly where we needed to be, like as we were directed. So we didn't see any balloons on our way in. So we got to like a bridge that wasn't Iguana Bridge and then went down towards the clue box. And then we saw the flags right there. So we're like, okay, perfect. We want to do a mental challenge. We can see where it is. Like, let's just go do that. And then the balloons we did pretty quickly. But again, like starting to get gassed out, like trying to slow
we
down.
were down in that area forever, walking back and forth and adding steps with the balloon. Our camera guy said that he logged about 8 miles that day.
For the whole day.
So it was humid
Yeah.
with the backpacks, as you know.
Oh yeah.
It just, and I'm twice as old as a lot of these guys, and it just, I ran out of steam.
He's
dehydrated.
Not to like out your age, he's older than Maya and Rohan combined. So I'm like, you get some props.
Absolutely.
But there's a clip of us practicing running up and down the beach, and you should see Rohan's at the
Booking it.
the front of the pack. It's crazy. Do you remember that? You were like zooming.
We talked about it at the beginning. I don't know if you knew. Maya and I had a strategy because I saw that there was a little pocket from where we were standing, and I was like, "We're gonna go for it." So,
flip, you're dead in front of the pack.
Smart. Well, I thought this detour was just fun. It seemed pretty straightforward with the balloons. I loved the chaos that the flags provided. So many people struggled with that, and it was great entertainment. But in this leg's roadblock, one team member had to do some face painting. And it seemed, again, pretty straightforward, but the sweatiness was intense from the heat. Cayla, what were your thoughts on this roadblock?
I'm so glad we did not have to do anything face paint related. Like, I get like the ick when I see like face paint. I don't know why. I just don't like stuff being on my face. So I would have been like, I'll do it so I can paint your face, Raquel.
I had to do it just so I could take a break and sit down.
Right, exactly. Like, but that's like that. Yeah, it's like who I guess would have been more tired because that person, like, just give them like a mental break, even though you're both kind of like slow down.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because I don't do my makeup often, so like I'm no pro and I am not good at art at all.
Yeah, who would know?
But I'm doing his painting, and he has the audacity to be like, "Can you hurry up?" I'm like,
well, I heard a lot of guys, a lot of them.
Down the whole race, and then I do have the nerve to say, hurry this up a little bit, but I admit it.
I was appalled.
Just one last push. I think I used I don't know how I like, let's book it, Mary. Let's book it.
Yeah, at one point he goes, let's book it. I'm like, you're not doing any booking. I was like,
How
you
long
would
do
have done
you?
the face painting on you, James.
Oh
You
my
or Will.
god. Yeah, I think Will would have preferred to do the makeup on me just because he's so good with detail. And he was so mad when we did the second leg on our season and he did the roadblock with the trapeze. He was so mad that they put clown face makeup on him, and he does not do well with face makeup. So.
I'm with Will. I don't like it.
What about you, Maya and Rohan? Who would have done this roadblock?
Oh, I was painting his face. I was painting his face. It was not going on me.
I just
Yeah.
feel like a lot of it was probably, I would like all the guys that had facial hair, I'd be like, oh, is that gonna like play into like my detail, like how strict? It's so hard on the first and second like leg, or even third and fourth. Like the first time you're getting those checks, like you're so nervous. Like how detailed do you have to be to where it's hard to say, okay, just get it done and make it look as close.
Yep.
It's like,
One
okay,
thing is
well, how close are they gonna look?
Production jumped in and said to the woman, you know, what are you looking for? That she was being very detailed for Mary Folly.
Really?
And then by the time we got to the pit stop, Phil told me that could be a new look for me.
yeah, he had like black eyeliner. He kind of looked like a rock star. I was like, you could probably rock the eyeliner look.
Jumping back to the face paint and the facial hair, that's like, I feel like an interesting subject in the Amazing Race over time. A long time ago, I think Leo and Jamal's first season with Tim and Marie, they had to do that one challenge in an Asian country where they had to do face paint, and like the guys had to like use a straight blade to shave their face, and it was like melting off their face.
That great memory. You're right. That did pose some hurdles for Leo and Jamal on that task. But you know what? Ricky used it to his advantage, which I loved when he was doing the makeup on Cesar. Like it was just,
I was thinking that. I wish my dad had a little bit of facial hair because I could have used that as like
use it as your line.
Yeah, exactly. So
sorry.
Sorry.
Well, the tasks overall, I saw some criticisms online where they're like, oh, it didn't seem challenging enough or like whatever. But I think the biggest challenge for the whole leg was the fact that it was a keep on racing.
Yeah.
You're literally on foot the entire time, which to me was more exciting to watch than the tasks themselves. So I didn't really care one way or another. I just thought just every team's individual experience was, I hate to say it, but hilarious.
Yeah. The amount of
there, and you know, Rohan and Maya will tell you too. We ran up and down that beach all morning. Everybody was gassed. It was just, you know, we were tired before the race started.
And I think the second leg too, the navigation obviously really played into all of the drama, and because everything was fairly close together, like that really emphasized kind of the chaos of this leg. So yeah, you wouldn't have got that if we were just driving around. So.
Well, let's talk about, oh, sorry, go ahead, Cayla.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, when you're on foot and you see certain, like, I mean, I know they don't like us to talk about that, but it's like you see certain production setups, right? You know, to where you're like, oh, that's like where you go. But then, like, in this leg, that, like, hurt people because, like, they skipped a step.
Yep.
So, I lived for this chaos. I thought it was hysterical because in my mind, I go, wait, did I miss them doing that? And I, like, forgot about it for a second. I was like, oh, I guess I, like, missed that. And then they're like, wait, was there something else beforehand? I was like, oh, this is so good.
So good. Well, let's talk about each individual team from this leg. And in first place, I mean, back-to-back first place finishes was Rod and Letitia. They are such a powerhouse team. They're so strong just by looking at them. And you even hear her say, like, it doesn't matter if we're first or not. We just don't want to be last. And that she feels like going into this keep on racing leg that Rod is going to realize the athlete he was his whole life, she's not. But I feel like she kept up and she's such a badass.
Yeah, they are like a powerhouse. Like they're standing at the standing line and I was like, oh God, like what are we gonna step into? Like he's a tank, she's fit. Like I was like, we've got some stiff competition up against us.
Yeah, she had that that like confessional at the beginning. And then she went on to absolutely prove herself wrong. Like she
Right.
killed it. She was
Yeah.
running and keeping up with him the entire time.
Yeah. I think you'll see that with a lot of teams this season is like never underestimating yourself and like never underestimating the other teams because like there's such an array of strengths that can help you in this race. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how those dynamics play out throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. I also loved with them when they were trying to decide the detour. They did rock, paper,
Paper.
I was like, I don't even think I would have been able to think straight to even play rock, paper, scissors.
Also the luxury of being that far ahead to like have the time to do rock, paper, scissors. We're just choosing.
But yeah, she definitely, I think, proved herself wrong in the fact that, like, no, she's a lot stronger than I think maybe she's giving herself credit for. But my favorite part, I was dying laughing. Puerto Vallarta is a very gay city. Okay. Like it's filled with the gays. They love to go there. It's a vacation spot for our community. But when Rod and Letitia left the roadblock, they stopped to ask for directions. And I'm like, of course it's a group of gay men. And they're all like, Casa Kimberly. And I'm like, okay, yeah, of course you know where Casa Kimberly is.
So funny.
My favorite was on the mat. She's like, I've given all the action I can today. You're not getting any action in the room or whatever when they're at the mat. She's like, I gave it my all today. Don't ask for anything else.
No more.
They're so funny.
Oh my
In
gosh.
second place was Ricky and Cesar. They were pretty much right behind Rod and Letitia this entire leg. I mean, when they started the Keep On Racing, they were only 5 minutes behind, but I mean, they were really neck and neck. They were a little disappointed that they didn't get first. And I loved the little backstory about how they feel like this is the perfect opportunity to like really get to know each other. And it might prove that they're ready for that next step. I'm like, are we going to see another?
I was thinking
proposal?
that. I was thinking that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, they're so fun to watch in action too. Like I think, you know, we talk about the race and we know these folks and have like become friends over the last year and a half, but to see everybody's journeys actually playing out, it's just like so exciting. And like, even though we're out so early, like I'm going to be glued to my TV screen for the next, 8 weeks. And like, I'm just so excited to see every single person's journey. And it's just going to be so, so fun.
Right,
Yeah,
because
'cause
you're
you
like
don't really get
emotionally
into that.
connected to them now. You're emotionally invested in their journey and like kind of where everyone falls in. Yeah. But the one thing I will say about them is I have paid attention to like little comments that they've made. And he even said before they even got the clue, he goes, oh, I bet you were collecting balloons.
Yes.
Their attention to paying attention to everything, I'm like, ooh, they are going to be a strong team because just, again, with the chaos that is the race, for them to just like pick up on that and be like, oh, I bet you were going to collect balloons. I'm like, wow, like they're paying attention.
Yeah. I thought that was so observant and very forward thinking, but then they did trip up just a little bit with not reading their clue because they only grabbed one set of balloons. But they were really quick at correcting that mistake where sometimes people just don't read the clue period and then it takes a little bit longer. I mean, Will and I were guilty of that. But they're just a really impressive team right off the bat. I mean, you know that Cesar is just a really big super fan of the show, and I think that's showing. And I just really loved how Ricky was in the Roadblock and just tying from personal life experience of like, I've done drag makeup, I've done musical theater, and like using the line of, you know, Cesar's facial hair. They're great. They're really fun to watch, these two.
Agreed.
In third place was Derek and Shalisa. And they feel like they're really underestimated. But in my head, I'm like, babe, you guys got third. I would not be underestimating you just by the looks of you and how just like they just seem strong. I would not underestimate that.
No. When we first saw them, you know, you're trying to like figure out who everybody is and like what their backgrounds are. I was like, these guys are definitely like ex-Olympians. Like they are just so fit. They carry themselves with such poise that I was like, they must have been like retired athletes, and like, you know, retired police officers obviously takes a lot of physical strength as well. But like immediately before the race even started, I was like, those guys are fit. Like they just, and they're so cool. Like they just have this like the way of like carrying themselves that they're awesome.
I mean, I think that showed in the episode when that local was like so willing to give them a free map. They're just giving off this energy.
I literally made a note. I go, not the free map being offered because I had to pay for mine. That came out of my money. But okay, I want to bring up something to you guys. Okay, so we saw they asked the boys for help.
Oh, yeah.
And that help was declined. If you were in their position, do you guys think, both of you, would you have told them where to go?
If we had the luxury of being all the way at the front of the pack, we probably would have pointed them in the right direction. But every team has a different strategy for how they want to play the race. And as long as you're being consistent with it, there's nothing that anybody else can say. So if that's their strategy, they should roll with it.
Yeah.
Good answer. Yeah.
And what about you, Mary and Chris?
Yeah, what about you, Mary?
That felt targeted. No, I'm just kidding. I learned my lesson in leg one when I helped Juan and Shane out of the goodness of my heart because I'm just intrinsically a very nice person. And they cut it over. My dad's like, you guys owe us. And when
it was slight, but I was like, are you kidding me? Really? We're not, because we had hiked all the way up to get those horses. We were sweating more. Mary saved them all of that. And I was like, that's the last thing we need to do. Military guys and the 60-year-old. Come on now.
But my thinking is in my professional and personal life, like being nice has gotten me ahead. Like having good relationships with people has always come around with good karma. And so I was like, these guys navigate for a living. They're obviously struggling, but they're very fit and like very nice, smart guys. Like they're probably just having a hiccup. So I gave them that information and they don't show it. But when we got to the wrestling match, as soon as we got there, they were like, hey, this is what's going to happen. The wrestlers are going to come out for 40 seconds.
Wow.
Match them. So they did pay us back. And then in the second leg, I think it was Krishma and Kishori, who I'd loved so much, had asked twice, like, did you guys find the clue box on Iguana Bridge? And then about the balloons. And I was like, yeah, they're, blah, 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 like very vague. So I did learn my lesson. But I think, it is a race for $1 million. And I think, you're making such a quick decision. And when you're in that race where you're collecting balloons really quickly, like you can kind of be like, oh, sorry, I'm in a rush, So I don't blame them at all. I think, that was probably the right move.
I'm a huge advocate, obviously, like of helping a team, but it's also knowing when to help and when not to help. I mean, I think the show itself is all about relationships. And I think your relationships with other teams is equally as important, especially if there might be U-turns or yields at play. You never really know. So it's always good to know when to help those other teams. And in this case, I thought that they were actually sure they were honest about like not helping them, but they weren't rude or like inconsiderate about it.
No.
I'm like, now Derek and Shalisa, they're taking mental note that you're not willing to help. And I hope that doesn't backfire in the future.
So that was my thought. Like Raquel and I always said, if we were blatantly asked for help, like if we were confronted, we would give it kind of thing. And so it's a good point. Like you're kind of like running in the passing like lane. So yeah, you can kind of be like caught up in whatever. But like that was my argument to Raquel because Raquel's like, no, like we're not helping any other team. And I'm like, okay, but I don't want to give a team a reason to U-turn us. And that even though they were definitely not mean, like honestly, like it was a smart move because they were on their butt. Mm-hmm. But I'm just curious. It's like that little thing could be the reason why if they get U-turned, maybe that's why. What would you have given them the directions, James?
I don't think I would have.
I don't think you would have either.
No, I'm like, I just like, why? Like in that moment, like why would I help? I just don't know. Like I'm in my own race in that moment and it's still too soon to really know like which teams I really feel like helping. But like I think from just like how they are, like I just would be like, they're a threat to my race and I would need to be very careful of when I do and don't help them. But they also talked about how they've been married for 34 years and that they're just really strong and they know this and that she's also very strong, but she also can be a little stubborn. So I'm like, I'm taking note of these little moments of like, is this foreshadowing to what their demise might be in the future? Or maybe she gets, held up at a roadblock, but I'm taking mental note that they did mention she's stubborn. So I'm curious if that might come into play down the line.
What I will say about them is that we live on the East Coast and they live on the West Coast. So we haven't gotten to have a lot of like direct time with them other than like cast Zooms. And I find myself so invested in their journey and their personalities and that fun banter that they have between each other. And even like when she was painting his face at the roadblock, like you could see the dynamics of their team working together, and they're just such a fun team to watch.
I love them.
I think another strong team right out the bat is Juan and Shane getting 4th place. They
Mhm.
recognize that they started off at the bottom on the first half of this Keep on Racing leg, but the fact that they were able to come back from that so quickly, I think says a lot about them as a team, because not a lot of teams can really fight from the back of the pack to the front. So I got my eye on these boys. They're really strong, but they also talked about how they're both type A personalities and they do have a tendency to argue. So again, like, is this foreshadowing? Are we going to start seeing them bicker and fight more with each other? What was it like racing with Juan and Shane?
I think the phrase that I would use is, I'm like, they're so badass, but so humble. Like they are just such genuinely nice guys. And I think that because they're type A, like they're very competitive, but they're so down to earth. And it's kind of like that juxtaposition with them.
Yeah, I found them nice guys, genuine. Even the comments they showed in the show where they say, hey, I wish them the best, but we'll take the edge. It's a game. So yeah. I don't really have no hard feelings against them. Miri needs to just be a little more quiet about giving up information.
I'm toughening up, guys. I promise.
Mary, I would have done the same thing.
And then in the end, we caught up to them at the wrestlers, and Rohan and Maya were right behind us, so it didn't really make a difference.
And I mean, you see them help Karishma and Kashori in this leg as well. Like they do pay it forward,
right?
Yeah, and it wasn't just like. I mean, it was detailed help, that was very kind of them. But again, it's kind of one of those things, like, I guess they had no reason not to help them. Because if you think about it, like they still have to go and do the whole, detour before they're coming back. So like, it was definitely a good call on their part to help them out because there would just been no reason not to. Yeah. But it was very detailed help. So I was like, wow, good on the boys, because I mean, yeah, maybe not every team would. They'd be like, I don't know, figure it out for yourself.
Well, speaking of detailed, I mean, I was really impressed with Juan's face paint on Shane. Like, I honestly think that was the best of all the teams. Like, he looked really good in that face paint.
I love all the screen grabs they did of everybody, like compared to the actual picture, and they're all like frozen in time. I was like, this is gold.
I was dying with like the sweat and like, they're giving them the thumbs up, and I'm like, that they're kind of like, guys, they're doing their best. Like if it's close enough, give them a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And then at the pit stop, they said that they've already learned so much after this leg of the race that you really have to rely on your gut instinct, trust yourself, but more importantly, don't underestimate your competition. And I feel like we'll continue to see that theme woven out throughout this season. It's just not underestimating your competition.
I mean, that's a theme for the whole Amazing Race. I mean, I feel like everyone comes in and you see, just like the big strong teams, and it's just like that's why I love the Amazing Race. Like that's not always going to be the team that makes it far.
And Bertram always stressed, I mean, just before we left, he stressed to us, like, any team can win the Amazing Race. Like any team. It's completely fair game. Once the world is going, they can't predict how the race is going to go or how teams are going to perform or how teams are going to fail. Like it's so hard to predict, but yeah, it really is. I think any team can really shine above the rest and it can just surprise you.
Yeah. Phil said to us, he goes, this race can be won walking. Because if you make the right decisions, if you pay attention to detail, if you don't make any mistakes, he goes, this race can be won walking. And I'll never forget when he said that. I was like, what? And now I'm like, okay, I kind of see it.
I don't know if I would walk, but sure.
I wouldn't walk, but yeah.
In 5th place with Yvonne and Melissa. And, they had the quote of the episode, trust but verify, which I actually like. I want to start implementing that phrase into my life, which is apparently a theme in their relationship, and we're getting a little bit more backstory, just like how strong and badass these women are. The fact that Melissa, I believe she's a former federal agent and investigator for Special Operations Branch of the Navy. Like, they're smart. And then you have Melissa completely speaking fluent Spanish with the locals for directions. Like, they're going to be a strong team and not one to underestimate either.
It was Yvonne was speaking Spanish, but I remember at the starting line, Melissa said, she's like, I was a bodyguard for the Dalai Lama. And I was like, again, like, what do we get ourselves into? Like,
oh, no big deal.
And Barack Obama. I was like, yeah, okay. Like,
Oh my God.
Yeah, Mary has her 60-year-old dad, and she's a bodyguard for Dalai Lama.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah. I remember it like stood out to me for like the whole year and a half. I was like, I'm pretty sure she said she like did protective services for the Dalai Lama. And I'm like, maybe I made this up. And then like I saw some clip where she said it. I was like, okay, I'm not crazy.
That's crazy. Cayla, what do you think about this team?
I think that, I think they're badass, but like that would not work in my relationship. They'll trust and verify. I'd be like, just trust me. You don't need to verify. Just trust me. Like, I would be so stubborn. But I don't know, like something about them, I feel like they take things so seriously. And like, so like, I just wonder if like the first like mishap, are they going to be able to like bounce back and have like a good attitude about it? Like, I don't know, like the female teams are like the strongest that I feel like I've ever seen on Amazing Race. Like these are, bodyguard for the Dalai Lama, and then we got 2 firefighters. Like, I like them. I'm just like, whoa, like these are like really serious, like badass women. I mean, I don't know. That dynamic would not work for me. Like I said, the trust and verify thing, but in the Amazing Race, I mean, they're probably going to be very detailed, not miss little stuff. So they're probably going to go far if I had to guess.
It's so funny too, because obviously the Amazing Race, like, encompasses as many backgrounds and like people from like all walks of life. And I think every single person on this cast is like so inspiring in their own way and so strong in their own way, that you can't help but sit there and like be in awe of the people that you're racing against. And it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really loving y'all's cast so much, and it's already 2 episodes, but I'm like so appreciative of the chaos that's being brought, the entertainment that's being brought, the silly little mistakes that, like, it feels fun, and it also feels chaotic. And I think that's how I associate the Amazing Race when I watch it. Like, it's just so all over the place. In 6th place, Angie and Danny, Team Walla Walla. I love Danny's superfan moment from the beginning. I feel like he's going to give Justin or I a run for our money as who is the biggest Amazing Race super fan. My God, hosting, mini Amazing Races for his hometown by the age of 12. I loved that home video moment, and that he just listens to podcasts. He's watched videos for the race, and absolutely doing that stuff does give you an edge. So I do think Danny is right about that. What are your thoughts, Cayla, on Team Walla Walla?
First and foremost, I would like to start a petition for him to host like an alumni Amazing Race. Like, he can pick the city, he can plan the whole thing. He'll be Phil, and we all can just volunteer to go race. I think that would be so fun. So Danny, if you could do that, that'd be great. But no, I'm obsessed with them. They made me cry at the end. Like, I honestly don't think I've cried except for like myself doing it and when we didn't win. like I just don't think I've cried watching the Amazing Race. And they were just so shocked and emotional, and like you could just tell how proud they were of themselves for like where they finished, which like I just felt that like through the TV. But I wanted to almost like speak to his mom, because she was like, what did she say? She said something like, I feel bad that I'm like physically, I guess, burdening, our team or whatever. And I was like, but you're not, though. Like, that heat exhaustion would take out anyone. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't your physical condition that like, hindered or like, and it was the perfect time to kind of regroup yourself. Like, how I loved how when she laid down and had the ice pack, he was like, oh, like I could do her makeup while she's laying down. Like, this
brilliant.
But like when she was like, I just feel so bad. It's like, she said, it's my weakness. That's what she said. It's my weakness. And I was like, girl, you are not weak. Like, that heat was going to take out anyone. You know what I mean? So I just love them. I love them so much.
They were also one of the teams that had the double detour of doing the rocking horses and the balloon. So to be able to get both of those tasks done, and then they pass teams on the way to the pit stop. So there's a little bit of magic going on over there that really, really impressed me.
Not only that, their decision to help the nurses was a kind one and a strategic one.
Yep.
Like, and I love that they explained that decision, because she said, you know, we have to recognize, like, we might not be as strong as every other team depending on, you know, what's going on. So it might be in our benefit to start making some like alliances. And like, so it was like, it wasn't just, I don't know, like they were strategic, they were thought out. So I wanted to highlight that too, their explanation of why to help someone. I was like, ooh.
I like died laughing when he said that. And he's like, we need one or two other teams that we can form. He said strong connections with. And I was like, yep, don't say alliance. You'll trigger the entire Amazing Race community. Do not use the A word
I know.
anymore. It's forbidden. It doesn't happen on the Amazing Race.
Connection, my bad.
They were so funny when they did the flag detour at first. And she's like, I'm confused what we're doing. And Danny's like, oh, I just think it's like the one that's different from the rest of them. And she's like, well, which one? Like, what's different? He's like, the one that's different from the rest. I'm like, Danny, you need to like lay it out. What is the different thing that you're looking for? You can't just say the different one. It was
smart of her to say, because I didn't even think about that at first, because I was kind of thinking of the title of it, which was like it said color in it, you know, so I would have been focused on the color too, which obviously was the right thing. But it was a very good, almost like alternative view of like, oh, should we be looking at the detail on the flag? And for a minute I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. And I was like, what if it is a detail? Because the girls were having a hard time. They thought they found it the first time and they said no. So I was like, oh shoot, maybe it is a detail. So I mean, it was good quick thinking on her part. Like, it could be that.
Yeah. We were watching last night. We're like, yep, still don't get it.
So I guess it was the order of them. Like,
yeah.
Dude,
the
aerial view they gave of that area with all the flags, I would have saw that in person and be like, Raquel, no. It's like no. It's like the needle in the haystack thing. No.
Yeah. Someone said it and they're like, well, there must be enough for all 11 teams. And so there were at least 11 wrong and we couldn't find one of them. So we were, had to.
Were the flags different patterns though? Like, I mean, the color pattern, was it different, or did every team have the
really
same?
See any pattern or color? Very confused look on my face. But to this day, I really have no clue what we're supposed to do. And I think
tell you.
All the other teams don't either.
We could make up an answer, but we have no idea.
I'll quote the twins. I'm not in the mental state to do this.
That was so good.
I'm well fed and well hydrated, and I'm still not in the mental state to do it. So
I love them. I love their brutal. Just like they're like, yeah, I'm not in the mental state to do this. Like I love them. I think they're hysterical. But yeah, I mean, physical exhaustion, and then you got to focus and like look up and be hard pass. I would wouldn't have done it.
What I didn't 100% understand was how they staggered the flags across the field, because there was the consistent set of 10 that they were walking around and matching up, but I didn't know if it was standardized, like you just had to keep going down the row, or if they were going diagonal, because that's what it kind of looked like in the picture. So I don't know, something that I was just thinking about while I was watching the episode.
I don't know.
Yeah, we were looking and I'm like, they all look different. Like I was like, there's no
couldn't find any pattern.
Well, maybe when Danny hosts an Amazing Race alumni race, that can be a task, and he can literally lay it out for all of us to really know what we're looking for. Exactly. And 7th place was Amber and Vinny, so that help from the other teams really helped them this leg. They're obviously feeling the pressure at the start of it because they're really fighting their way out of last place. Obviously, picking the balloon detour was the wise choice for them to make up so much time. They were able to pass a few teams there. I'm going to be curious of their dynamic moving forward, because the roadblock was really frustrating to watch. in terms of like Vinny saying, oh, you're more OCD than the judges. And like, I just didn't feel like, as someone who's run the race, I didn't feel like that was really supportive of a partner. I would have been frustrated and I would have gotten in my head more. So I'm going to be curious of their dynamic moving forward, how that's going to work out for the two of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
then on the one even before that, when like they were doing the horses, she's like, I need you to go away from me.
I think it'll be interesting though, because they work together. And so, like, obviously I'm curious just to see how that plays out, because they obviously spend a lot of time together. And yeah, we'll have to see.
That's a really good point. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just want to say that the really good point about that is like we only get like a glimpse of the dynamics of people when we watch the show, right? So they clearly know what works for their relationship and how they communicate. So like it's going to either help them or hurt them in the long run. I just in that moment was like, oh my God, if Will was doing that to me while I was doing that roadblock, I would be getting in my head. I would be frustrated. And he was narrating when teams were leaving. And I'd be like, I don't care. Like, let's just focus on us right now. So I'm going to be curious to see how they'll do. But they clearly know what works for them because they're in a relationship. And like you said, yeah, they work together.
I was going to say something along the same lines, that they work together in a job that they're under a lot of pressure, and they're getting to the pit stop, and it's not like they're taking it personally. They're still in good spirits and like taking it in stride. So that, like, at the end of the day, I think is a good thing that they know their communication style.
I was going to say, that's probably their way of motivating each other. Like every dynamic's like different.
And I think they'll continue to, honestly, like, I think they are fully equipped to be a strong team. They absolutely prepared. I've watched their stuff online and they're fans of the show. And the fact, again, that they fought their way from the bottom to this placement, I think that they can continue to do that. And especially forming these relationships with other teams, they're not one to, like, again, underestimate.
And I think I noticed they're a team that did the one backpack strategy, I think, right? Don't they only have one backpack? And it's like a small backpack at that. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. They came prepared. And I think, again, we said this in our last recap, Cayla, it's a learning curve, and it's good to get out those like race jitters early so that by the time you get to legs 4, 5, 6, you can like really find your momentum and like put aside what didn't work for you before. So yeah. In 8th place was Anthony and Bailey, and they were a standout for me this episode purely based on entertainment. They were so funny. They're talking about how they don't have twin telepathy, but they're good at expressing how they feel, which we learned, especially when one of them was, like you said, Cayla, like, I just don't have the mental space for this right now. Like, they clearly know how to work together. And it said we want to win, but at the same time, we want to have a good time, make the most of it, live in the moment. And I saw Haley and Kaylin from my season comment on that post being like, this is literally us. And I was like, this makes so much sense. That is 100% like Haley and Kaylin.
Yes.
We like absolutely love them. Like I think my dad thinks he's the third triplet. Like we have bonded with them so much over the last year and a half. Like they are just so awesome.
Yeah, they're just like, they're just a blast. They're as cool in person. They're as cool as they look. They're just funny, personable, nice guys.
So nice.
Fun to be around. Full of life. Florida boys.
We were like, they're surfer boys for sure. And they're like, yeah, we actually like don't really surf. And I'm like, you know what? Just tell people you do. Like, it's fine.
Play up the facade.
Exactly.
But they did have that little mishap when they stopped for directions at the restaurant and like left their route info with the host.
I was gonna bring it up if you did it. He goes, hope that will not happen again. And I'm like, I bet you that will for sure happen again. I love your positivity and optimism. But like the other fun, they're definitely giving like the comedic relief, the comedic entertainment. I love like after he had his face painted, they're like, oh, like, should we ask for directions? He goes, you can. I'm not approaching people looking like this. I was like dying.
And they had their big backpacks on the front of their body while they had the butterfly stuff. They had a lot of stuff. It was really funny.
Well, it was really those wings were really awkward.
I think one of like their straps was broken. I'm like, babies, get it together.
What is it? There was a local that posted a picture with the two of them to Instagram, and I just thought that was very indicative of their personalities too. They were there to make new friends, meet
Oh,
people
for
around the
sure.
world. They were such a great time, and loved getting to know them too.
Oh my gosh. I want to say it was them too, where maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Cesar and I don't know, but like there was a big group of people that helped give directions to the final like pit stop to whatever house that was. And it crossed my mind for a second because they were around a lot of people. Like, there's moments where like I think they were like, oh no, it wasn't them, but someone was like, like when you get directions, I'd be like, hey, don't help them out. Like, don't help these other teams out. Like, be quiet and like, go away.
Exactly.
Well, we'll see how they do moving forward, but they are definitely providing some entertainment for us.
Yeah.
In ninth place was Sunny and Busy. They feel like moms are always underestimated, and they were one of the teams that actually did color correction. But it took them a minute. And I was wondering why, after seeing so many teams pass them with the balloons, why they didn't switch like the others.
Yeah, they kept at it.
Yeah, I don't remember. We saw them at color correction when we were there, and I remember they had been there before us, and then while we were there, they got it, and so I was like, "Oh, they can do it. Like maybe we can." And we had tried it, and so I don't know. I think they seem like the type of people in their nature to like persevere, and like we've started something, we're gonna finish it. And they were really trying hard. Like they were thinking of every kind of like option for it, and so I was like, "Kudos on you guys," because like I obviously don't know what happened, but yeah, they got it. And like, yeah, I think that just speaks to like their way of like doing things.
Yeah, I would love to know like what their thought process was too, because at first they were like pink and yellow and orange. Wait, no, let's do blue and green. Like they couldn't decide like which colors they were trying to focus on. It was hilarious, that bickering of like, well, no, let's do pink and orange, or like, no, purple and green.
No, I think Mary like hit the nail on the head. They just strike me as like, women that are going to persevere, and just like, even just like to like dumb it down, like from my point of view, it's like you've spent so much time, like at that point, I'd want to see it through, and like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, you spent so much time. At what point would you leave? So that's like a strategy that I feel like a lot of people need to think and discuss beforehand of like, hey, how much time are we going to spend on something before we jump ship? But because when you get the clue, the color stuff was right there. I get that people saw the balloons as you came up to that, but it's very hard to like resist the temptation of, well, this detour's right here. Like, we might as well just stay right here.
Yeah, exactly.
They're a team I would actually like to see more of. I feel like after the first and second episode, we've gotten bits of them, but I'm still like, they're one of the teams I'm like, I want to see more of. And it's always hard with how the editing works with this show, because I feel like if you're not in the top 3 or the bottom 3, you don't really get much screen time. So I'm hoping we continue to see more of them, because there's a lot about them that I really, really like.
Yeah, because I actually feel like both of the girl teams I'm not seeing a ton of, like as far as like screen time goes, but maybe that'll change.
One of my favorite parts of the whole episode was when they were doing the detour and the cousins pulled up, and Busy was like, "It's the cousins." Because we haven't seen a lot of the teams interacting that much thus far, because it was one day in Puerto Vallarta and everybody was focused on themselves because it was so hot. But that it's starting to give us a little taste of what the interactions might look like going forward.
Well, Kishori and Karishma were 10th place this leg, and they are also providing us with so much entertainment, and I absolutely love it. Right off the gate, Kishori's like, it doesn't matter if it's a bridge, we just need to find the iguana bridge. And Karishma's like, no, that's a bridge over there. And I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus, this is going to be a long leg for these two.
I need them to stay as long as possible for the chaos that they provide, because like I am obsessed with it. I'm like, I think she called her Shaq. She's like, you're like Shaq. Like, you're like Shaq. Come on, we can do this. I'm like, what? She's not. She's so tiny. How is she like Shaq?
They're so funny. And they're both like, they're just like that in person, where they're just so bubbly and so vibrant and like full of life that they just kind of like, I keep saying to both of them, I'm like, you guys are just like, you have star energy. Like you just walk into a room and you like are lit up. But they're also like such strong women. Like I think, you know, both of them have gone through so much and yet they're still these vibrant, happy go lucky women. And so again, just another team that I think is just incredible. And yeah, I'm like laughing along with them too. I'm like, you guys are freaking hilarious.
Yeah, they literally made me laugh out loud.
They're so sweet, and what stands out about them is their social connections, because even seeing them in real life, they have so many connections that they've been able to keep and maintain, and it's so awesome to watch that they can have all these personal connections with so many people, and I think it is translating to the race.
Oh, and for sure.
It's not lost on me yet that they started off the first part of this Keep On Racing leg like top 4. And and then all of a sudden with the whole, you know, handkerchief debacle at the Roadblock, they fell back to the pack, but they started off really, really strong. So they just need to kind of get their groove back. And I feel like they can continue to be strong. But I'm all here for their chaos and their entertainment for the time being.
Me too.
And then in 11th place was Michelle and Sean, and they kind of had the same mishap that Kishori and Karishma had, where they were trying to find the Iguana Bridge, but came across the clue box at the Roadblock, and then just started to do the Roadblock first, and then had to correct themselves when Juan and Shane showed up and said, hey, you know, we did a detour before this. So Michelle and Sean, they started off again strong too, but now they're falling behind in the pack as well. But they just seem like they're having such a great time with each other. And I love that they're going into this race to like learn more about each other than they already know. Like they just seem really happy and in love.
Oh, for sure. It was such a sweet moment. They were dancing to the guy playing on the pit stop. I was like, oh my gosh, I love them. I love them so much.
They're like two peas in a pod. Like even in person, like they literally finish each other's sentences. And I feel like they're the same person, just like split in two. Like you can just tell that they love each other so much. And I think it's like, they are really just like two peas in a pod.
She's like, yeah, we went on this to like spend more time with each other. And, you know, I'm like, wow, like I do like this person. Like I actually really like him. I'm like, well, I would hope so. You married him and you have a business. Like it was just such a cute, innocent, like just happy comment. She's like, I really like him. Like all this time we're spending together. I love it.
And they're so nice, the two of them.
Yeah.
I'll be curious because I feel like in the preview for next week, he was trying to face a fear and we didn't really get to see what that fear was, but I'll be curious to know what it is. And I always love when people are forced to face their fears on the Amazing Race. It's such a fun and exciting moment because you're kind of forced to, otherwise you go home. So I'll be curious to know what that fear is next.
I missed the preview, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, he was like sitting on like the side of a hill and was like, I can't do it, but you have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah,
it's a good one. We won't say.
Don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it. And then sadly, we have to say goodbye to Chris and Mary after this episode. But you two were so fun to watch, an absolute joy. I love the dynamic and the relationship the two of you have. I also just appreciate how big of a fan the two of you are, and how, like you said, Mary, that your mom introduced you to this show, and it's just been a really great way for the two of you to see the world from your 1-bedroom apartment. Like, I just wish we got to see more of you. I mean, all of you. I mean, it's so sad, but like, you guys are,
you know, we had a little gut feeling on the beach. I mean, we turned around and we had quite competition there.
Yeah,
you know, Rohan and Maya included, and ex-football players and Army guys, and we had tough competition all around, but we wouldn't change anything for the world.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to have done it with him. And you know, I think my mom is a big part of not only our story, but it kind of felt like she was there in spirit with us too. And like we submitted our audition tape on what would have been the 15th anniversary of my mom and dad's wedding anniversary. And so it just felt like everything was so serendipitous that like she had introduced us to the show. She was the original fan that like brought us into it and like would invite us to watch it with her. And then, yeah, it just felt like so special to have it with her. And, you know, like he kept apologizing, and I was like, please don't. Like, I was like, I know that you're giving it your 100%, and like that's all I can ask of you for it. And like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I wanted to make sure that we had like good memories of it. And I think at some point I was like laughing because I'm like, I'm acting like I'm on a vacation. Like I get to the wrestlers and I'm like, this is so exciting. And I'm like, enjoy the beach and like enjoy the ocean breeze. And I'm like, I swear I'm competitive. I just was like, at that point, I was like, I'm going to enjoy the moment.
I loved that. Like when you're like, let's enjoy the view. I was like, yes, like that. I love that because like it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And from someone who like started watching it from like, you know, such a young, I'm just like this is why I love you guys because I knew you would appreciate the experience.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you guys all know Phil is fantastic.
Yeah.
CBS makes you feel so good. Just a wonderful, fantastic, crazy experience. And then, you know, obviously you guys have all been through it as well. And to be able to share this with you guys is just like amazing to us.
And I think last night he's like in the episode, he goes, I have to sometimes like pinch Mary. And I'm like, you've been pinching me for the last year and a half. Like, it still doesn't feel real, you know? It still feels like a dream.
And 5 years from now, it still won't feel real.
Yeah, I'm like, when am I gonna wake up and like find out none of this happened? You know, it's like I just feel so lucky, and I, you know, just lucky to even get a chance. And for me, I think that's like what matters.
And they on the way out, they said you're part of the Amazing Race family, and you know, we didn't really mean much at the time, but it really is a family.
Yeah.
That's how we feel, anyways. You know, we're all connected for life by this Amazing Race experience.
Yes. And we ride or die for each other. We are here for support.
Yeah.
We're here as fans. Like we welcome you with open arms because we loved every second of watching to know you guys.
Yes. I want to know what, if anything, did you learn about each other? And then I want to ask that same question to you, Maya and Rohan, too. What did you learn and what was the biggest?
That you know, I tried to create a strong woman. It's a tough world, and I feel like I've done pretty well with Mary, and I want her to be able to take care of herself, and she took care of me very well in the race, and I appreciate that for life, and just glad that we could get along on the show, and it just made our bond stronger.
Yeah, and I think for my dad too, like he has always been my rock, and like when my mom passed, immediately, no questions asked, stepped up to play mom and dad and did all of the roles of making sure that I had a happy childhood and did as much as he could for me. And, it, you know, like, I think I'm learning that, like, he needs support too sometimes, whether it's like emotional or physical. And like, I want to make sure that I'm there for him as much as you are for me in whatever capacity it is. And so I think it's just solidified our bond and like made us that much stronger. So, I wouldn't have asked for a better partner than my dad. So I just I could cry. I would have started crying.
I don't think glad we weren't drinking wine, Cayla, because we would be crying.
I'm literally, there's tears forming. It's coming. I'm done.
All right. And for the two of you, Maya and Rohan, what did you learn about each other and your biggest takeaway from the experience?
So when Maya and I raced, she was 19 and I was 22. And it was the first time that we had ever gotten to travel, just the two of us. And looking back at that now, like it really is the start of adventures that I know that we're going to have for a really, really long time. And I'm so proud of her, like for just getting there and having this like adventure that we did.
And I truly just learned how much I could trust Rohan, how much I like and love him as a person too. I mean, so many times he's my family. I know I'm going to be around him the rest of my life, but how much I truly care and can trust him, and he's going to be there for me no matter what happens. And I just feel like it's just such a special connection that we get to have with one another.
This is why I love the Amazing Race.
I know.
Well, thank you all for joining us for this recap and sharing about your experience. And you're welcome back anytime, obviously, and welcome to the Amazing Race family, truly.
Thank you so much. I mean, have like watched both of your seasons, obviously, and like Cayla, I think your season was one of the last ones we watched before we left. And it's just like, so I'm still pinch me because I feel like I'm still dreaming, you know? So thank you guys so much for having us on here. This was so freaking fun.
No, thank you guys for joining. Like we
Yeah,
we wanted to hear your story.
The stewardesses, right?
Yeah. I'm not anymore, sadly, but
And also happy belated birthday. Was
Yes,
it?
happy
Thank
belated birthday to
you.
Cayla.
Thank you. 33, just like the season.
Lucky 33.
We'll be having Haley and Kaylin, the infamous blonde bandits from my season, join us next week for our recap. And until then, we just hope you all have a great week.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks again for
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.